Hello my sweet friends and welcome to DIY with Nadia. In today's video, we're going to be working on these wreaths. They are beautiful wooden bead wreaths from the Dollar Tree, and we are going to make 5 Christmas wreaths. Let's get started. Let's start with the supplies for this wreath. I'm going to be using some cotton picks, and then these are actually from the Dollar Tree. They're a little frosted, they're beautiful. I am going to be using some black and ivory ribbon. The black does have a little bit of shimmer, but really not even noticeable. Also wired 1.5 inch, and I thought it would go perfectly with the black beads. I'm going to make a 5-loop bow. The 5th loop is going to be in the center. You can use a bow maker or do this by hand. It's just easier with a bow maker. I'm measuring my tail at 6 inches because I don't want this to be too long. This ribbon is one-sided, which means every time we go through the center dowels, we're going to twist, including the first time. I think I'm going to do about 4.5 inches twist in the center. And then 4.5 on this side, twist again. All 4 loops are going to be 4.5 inches. When we're done with our 4 loops, we're going to make one about 1.5 inch. You want this to be on the smaller side. Grabbing a zip tie. Before I tighten my zip tie up, I'm going to fold my bow in half. Make sure my loops are nice and even. And now I'm going to just tighten it up. And now it's time to bring everything together. Let me take the tags off first. I'm going to put the greenery in between the cotton buds. The lowest of my cotton buds I'm going to bring to the front, and I'm just going to work everything else in. Make sure all your cotton buds are facing up. Everything's mixed in nicely. I'm going to grab a zip tie. You can grab floral wire, of course. I'm just uniting 2 of these on top because we're still going to bring them together in the center, but here I want to make sure that the top is taken care of. Now I'm just going in and rounding off the actual pick so it lays really nicely on the beads. Going to do the same thing with the second one. I'm done with my picks. Now I'm going to put my wreath form upside down so that we can cover this part. That way we can just put a nice string on top. Start laying your picks out. Zip tie everything together in the center, and then I'm going to start zip tying on the sides, and then just zip tie anywhere where you feel like it's going to help stabilize the greenery. Now that my greenery is all set, I'm ready to attach my bow. Grabbing another zip tie, I'm going to go through that 5th middle little loop and then attach to the center of the wreath. To cut the tails, I decided to go on a little slant, so just like that. I'm grabbing a ribbon that's 1/4 of an inch, a nice piece of black ribbon, and I'm going to just use some hot glue, overlap it a little bit. And I'm doing this because I want this to be seamless. I did not want to make little knots. I wanted a beautiful seamless look, so I'm just going to cut off the extra tail. And look how elegant and beautiful this hanging loop is. I'm all done with this gorgeous, gorgeous wreath, and because of all the neutral and beautiful colors, you can definitely have it as a year-round wreath. This wreath is going to be quick and easy, and the way I make the bow is the way I learned making bows a very long time ago when I first started crafting. Starting with some gold eucalyptus, a pack of mini pine picks. The ribbon I'm going to be using is gold and sheer. It's so pretty. And of course, our bead wreath. I decided to do something different with this wreath form just to let you know that you can. You really don't need to do this or anything like this, but what we're going to do is we're going to pull this wreath apart so we find the center, bend it so we know that that's where it needs to be, and then we're going to take 2 sides, and then to find the center here, and that's what's going to make a little square, flattening the sides out. I'm going to attach all the greenery here, and the wreath is going to be attached by the beads on top. The wire that's holding this wreath together is very malleable, as you can see, so it's really easy to do this. I'm going to remove 4 of the gold eucalyptus little picks, and then 3 of these picks on each side. Going to put one a little higher than the other, so we have a little volume going on. Then 1 pick on top and 2 to the sides. I'm going to bend this one a little bit. So just like this, I think that's more than enough. Now I'm going to take my zip tie and I'm going to zip tie everything together. Zip tie a little lower. And then I'm going to do the same thing to this side. Measure where I want them to go and bend them. If you're having a hard time, grab some pliers. I don't like to cut tails if I don't have to because they'll help to hold each other, just like that. So of course I'm going to grab a zip tie and bring all of these together before I attach them to the actual wreath form. Going to do one in the center. Now I'm just moving things around to make sure that it's A, pretty, and B, none of the zip ties are showing. Now it's time to make our super easy bow. I'm going to eye about 2 inches and I'm going to start making loops. Now your loops need to be enough for both sides. So measure it off, and 1 loop is going to be 2 loops. That's about the right size. And I like to actually pinch, especially if you're using wire, pinch that. So now you know exactly how much you need. And now I'm going to go around 4 times because I want to make 8 loops. We just made 4 loops. 1, 2, 3, 4. When I come to the end, I'm going to bend right there, measure off another 2 inches and cut. This part is our center, so I did not mind folding it like that. Now we're going to just basically fold this in half and then take those folded edges and bring them together, just like this. Now I'm going to just bring them all together and zip tie in the center. Before I tighten the center up, I like to fold in half right at the center to make sure the sides are nice and even. When I know it's nice and even, that's when I tighten my zip tie up, grabbing yet another zip tie. I'm zip tie obsessed in this video. It is what it is. And now all we have to do is start opening all of them up. Look at this, we have an instant bow. This is one of the easiest bows, and when I was a little girl, that's how I learned to do bows. For this wreath, I just think it looks beautiful like this. Look at that. And this wreath is all done. For this wreath, I'm going to be using these beautiful berries, some poinsettias, some leftover pine or Christmas tree pieces. These are going to be fillers in between the berries. A piece of foam. This one is about 2 inches by 4 inches. Floral wire, and of course, a wooden bead wreath form. To get started, I'm going to put my wreath right over the foam piece, and the easiest way is just to push it in. Now you know exactly where to cut, and I use a letter opener to do this. Then I'm going to grab the floral wire and start wrapping it around the foam. Make a little twist. I would do this until you feel like the little foam piece is very stable. Cut the little tail off, and I'm just going to put the little ending right inside the foam. Now I'm going to cut my poinsettias down. Next, I'm going to be cutting the berries. I'm going to start by the longest berries, bend them to how they're supposed to be, and you can clean this bottom part so that it will go in nicely into the foam. Going to put in a poinsettia, put another one right there. One of the poinsettias is going to go straight in the center. So I'm going to just put this one to the side and start adding all of these berries. Look how nice and full they are. Now it's time to get some shorter ones, filling in the top. This is step one. Just fill in those berries everywhere and have the 2 poinsettias on the side set in place so you can kind of work around them. Now I'm coming in with the pine branches and definitely going in between. I just put my hot glue on because I am going to be hot gluing everything in place. So while the hot glue is warming up, I'm putting all of these in. Let's cut down the poinsettia to see what else we need. And I feel like we need a little bit more berries around the poinsettia. We need these shorties, just like this on the sides. This looks good to me. So now I'm going to come in and hot glue everything. When I'm all done with that, that's when I'm bringing my poinsettia that's going in the center, and I'm just going to work it right in. And that is it for this super simple and beautiful poinsettia wreath. Green has been everywhere this year, so I thought I would glam things up and use some gorgeous green picks. These are little feathers with golden little specks throughout, so beautiful. And then I'm going to use my Peacock ribbon. You can use red and white, green and white, whatever you want, but I'm going to be using these gorgeous ivory and peacock print and then navy blue and peacock print. It does have green, so it's going to work really nicely with the feathers. They're both wired, 2.5 inches, 1.5 inches, our wooden bead wreath, and some zip ties. To really bring out the blues and the greens in the ribbon and the feathers, I decided to spray paint this wreath form gold. Here's how I did it. The first thing I did was spray paint the beads with some white paint. This one's Rust-Oleum and matte. Doesn't matter what you use, but it needs to be white to prime the beads so that when we come in using our gold paint, it'll be easier to make it stand out and you will need less coats. I ended up using just 1 coat of the gold. It was more than enough. And this one is by Krylon in Brilliant Gold. Look how gorgeous this came out. But I still wanted to seal it in, so I came in with some Krylon acrylic coating in gloss. You can do matte, whatever works best for you. But I do recommend using a UV resistant clear acrylic coating to seal everything in. Now it's time to bring everything together, starting with this gorgeous, gorgeous ribbon. I'm going to measure out the tail, and I'm going to do a simple bow. Seriously, a very simple bow. We're just going around just like this. I'm going to hold it together by a clamp while I do the other one. Now we're grabbing the beautiful blue one. So pretty. And I'm going to do 2 loops just like I did on the first one. And we're going to overlap it. The longest part of this wreath was really painting the actual wreath form. And I did give a half hour in between each layer when I turned it over. Let's cut this. I'm going to attach the bow right where we hang it. So of course, the first thing I want to do is make sure we have a hanging loop. This wreath is so elegant. I am going to grab some sheer ribbon. It's kind of like an ivory, but really it's sheer. And I'm just going to make a little loop, 2 full knots. Back to the bow. Very carefully bring everything together. Try to kind of zigzag it. And what that does, it will pop the actual loops up. Zip tie, you can use anything you want, of course. Let's cut that off, and I'm using my flat little clippers that you can find in my Amazon store. Now I'm just puffing it out a little bit to see how I like it. And because we have the ivory in the back and the blue in the front, we want a beautiful contrast. I'm going to cut about, I don't know, 1.5 inches of this ivory ribbon. And what you want to do is you want to fold it in 3 because you want beautiful sides. Put some hot glue and attach. Grabbing your floral wire, put it right in the center. And now we can bring these together. This way we have something to attach our bow to our actual wreath. So let's take care of this part. Lots of hot glue in the back and the other side. I'm using my little finger protector And these guys you can get from the Dollar Tree. They come in a set of 3. Next, I'm going to dovetail my ribbon, folding in half and cutting a little triangle out, just like that. I'm going to prepare my bow, how it's going to look on the wreath form, because when we're attaching our little feather picks, I want to make sure that they're in a good spot. Now I'm grabbing a zip tie. I'm going to put in one of those loops on top and zip tie them. Now that the feathers are in place, I'm grabbing my bow, and remember how we have the floral wire? We're just going to wrap that around the center. Give it a few twists. For the tails, because I feel like it's a little bland, I'm going to just poof them out from the center so they kind of pop out of the wreath. Flatten the end of the ribbon so it looks something like this. We just kind of looped it and made it flat so it has movement to it. And this wreath is all done. For this wreath, we are going to do a layered bow. I don't think I've done this on this channel. And then we are going to use one of my favorite florals from Dollar Tree, which is these gorgeous poinsettias. And then we are going to use 2 of these wood bead wreaths. The first thing we're going to do is make our wreath. Let's cut this off, and then we're going to grab one of our wreath forms and some sort of pliers. You want to get something on the thinner side. These come apart super easy. As you see, I'm not really putting any effort in. And what you want to do is you want to straighten out one of the sides. And then we're going to start taking some of these beads out. I think that's good because we have a lot going on. You just want that double effect. Grabbing my wire cutters, I'm going to cut and leave about 1 inch off. And I was going to say the best way is to wiggle back and forth, but as you saw, it just popped. Grabbing your pliers, start bending them a little bit, hook it on the other side, and keep on bending. Now I'm going to make sure that all my hooks are nice and closed. And then next thing you want to do is grab floral wire, whatever you want to grab, and bring these together. Our wreath form is done. Now it's time to make the bow. We are going to be using this 2-inch burlap with lace overlay. Then we are going to be using one of my favorite things, which is this mesh ribbon. This mesh ribbon is 2.5 inches and the burlap is 2 inches. So we are going to put this first, lay it down, and I'm going to make almost an 8-inch tail. For some reason, I want it to be on the long side. And then we're going to overlay it with this ribbon. This ribbon does need to be twisted in between, and we are going to make 4-inch loops. After you made this loop, I'm going to go in and make this loop. Because it's double-sided, this one I'm just going to do right there. And now back to this one, 4 inches. And I'm going to make 6 loops. Complete this one, twist, come in with this one again. The reason I'm doing this is because it's going to be so super easy to take it apart. Everything's going to be very, very even. We're done with this one. And then we have one more loop to do with this other one. This is a little bit easier to do when both ribbons are either one-sided or double-sided, because you basically just put one on top of the other and you just make the bow. But in my case, I kind of made it a little harder on myself. So I would do the burlap and then the mesh, then the burlap, then the mesh, burlap, mesh, and off I went until I got 6 loops of each on each side. Now I'm just pulling the bow up and zip tying it. Cut that off. This bow is going to be so pretty. Let's take care of the tails. I'm going to dovetail the burlap one. Time to attach. This is so beautiful. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to face the poinsettias to the front, face them up. Now I'm just bending the whole floral so it just lays beautifully on our wreath. This is going to be too long, so I'm going to grab some wire cutters and I'm going to cut 2 of the sections off. And then you can decide how you want to attach. I'm going to attach using the zip tie. And then I am going to grab a piece of floral wire to do the top. You can use anything you want. want, but I'm going to use a floral wire just because it's a lot more delicate. I want to make sure that these florals are really taken care of. So just twist, and I'm going to hide that right behind there. Now we're going to attach our bow. Double my floral wire just to have a nice secure connection here. Twist it and twist it onto our wreath form. Now that everything's attached, it's time to open up our bow. This is why layering is nice. All you do is you take that apart, and I just feel like the ribbon spreads on the bow nice and even. And here is how this wreath came out. So pretty, so elegant, and super fun to make. I hope you enjoyed this video. In the comments below, please let me know which wreath was your favorite. As for us right now, we're going to say bye-bye and thank you so much for being with us. And of course, if you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing and hitting the little bell. Bye guys. Mwah.